Okay, I want to give you guys a quick overview of how the system works before I show this video and chat about it. The government is divided into three equal parts: the legislative, which is Congress, the executive, which is the president, and the judicial branch, which is the, the Supreme Court and the court system in general. Each one of these are equal in power. So the president controls one equal branch. The way that the founders set it up is so that no one man can ever take control of the country because he can never control all three branches. Well, the legislative branch is one co-equal branch, and we've got two houses in that branch, the Senate and the House of Representatives. There are 100 senators in the Senate, and each senator represents the state and not necessarily the people's interest, but the state's interest. The House of Representatives has 435, and each representative represents about 700,000 more or less. So each state has more or less representatives depending on population. It's the legislature that passes all the laws and all the budgets. The executive or the president has no power over the budget. They can propose budgets and they can veto budgets, but they cannot create laws that spend money. Only the House of Representatives has the power to create a law to spend money. The judicial branch or the Supreme Court is to uphold those laws that are passed and to make sure that they're constitutional, making sure that they conform to our form of government based on the Constitution. Okay, the main point of the video is how the legislative branch works and how it is being abused right now. Each year, the House of Representatives passes a budget and then sends it over to the Senate, and the Senate creates a similar budget, and they meld it together by coming in conference and working out their differences in conference. The problem is the Republicans took over in 2010, and since then, the because of course Obamacare was stuffed down the throats of the Republicans because not a single Republican ever voted for Obamacare. So no Republican owns it or has their fingerprint on it other than trying to kill it. And the people immediately after Obamacare was passed decided to kick out the Democratic majority in the House and give a House of Republicans, assuming that that would fix the issue, that we could get rid of Obamacare because the House has the power of the purse. The House, the legislative branch, the House side decides what can be spent and what can at any given time. So if you create a new house, they can decide to defund whatever they want. There is there the Congress today cannot force the hand of future Congresses. That's a known fact. That's why the Congress of '08, the one that shoved Obamacare down our throat with Democratic House, Democratic Senate, and Democratic President without any input from Republicans at all, how that could happen. And the whole time they were selling Obamacare, they were saying, this is not a tax. This is not a tax. This is just insurance. So when the law went before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, "Oh, wait a minute, you can't force people to buy insurance. That would be unconstitutional." Then they said, "Oh, no, 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 it's not that. It's a tax because that would be constitutional. See, the Congress has the right to pass laws to tax. They just don't have the right to force people to buy a product that they want or don't want. You can't force people to buy something just because they happen to live." So now the Republicans do have the power. They can say, no, we're not going to pay for that. So they sit down, and this is what they did this last week and a half, and it was working as far as I'm concerned. They were creating individual budgets for each item the way it's supposed to be done and passing it over to the Senate, and then the Senate would table it or put it in the ditch and say, sorry, we're not even going to look at it. Fine, you guys want to do that, but eventually the people are going to wake up and figure it out. I, the problem is that the Democrats have MSNBC and CNN and ABC and NBC and all those other, and the Republicans have Fox, which is, you know, minor. And even Fox is not really on it. They're like, oh, yeah, we don't want to upset people. We don't want people to go without their benefits. Of course not. Why would people go without their benefits? Because we are not letting you spend all kinds of money on all kinds of weird projects. Of course, here's a bill to fund all those things that you're crying about. So finally, the Republicans caved, and it's history. It happened. They caved. But they got 3 more months, and now they can cave again because they're going to, because the Democrats are thugs. They are absolutely um, brutal, and they know that eventually the Republicans will give up because they can't stand to see people suffer. The Democrats don't care. You see them putting chains around the monuments to keep the veterans out. I mean, you know, if that doesn't wake people up, I don't know what does. Anyway, let's listen to this.
As I explained to Senator McConnell and Senator Alexander this morning, they're not doing us a favor by reopening the government. They're not doing us a favor by extending the debt ceiling.
No. He all last week he was saying how the people are suffering if we don't do this. Everybody's going to suffer. Everybody's going to, we're throwing Granny out in the street, and all these terrible things are going to happen. And now, oh, you're not doing us a favor. Well, whose favor are we doing it? Is it for those little old ladies? Not you, the little old ladies, right? Because you don't care about them.
That's part of our jobs. That's why we've said, open the government, let us pay our bills, and we need to do that before we have any agreement on what goes.
So no negotiations until you do what we tell you to do. And he's telling the Republicans in the House, listen, you guys have to do this thing, because if you don't, then we're not going to let the government reopen, and we're not going to fund any of these things that you guys keep sending over. We're not going to fund any of it. The VA, those little old ladies that are starving to death on the street, too bad, you know. Take it with you because it's political and we like it and we're having a good time. You're not doing us any favors. That's what he's telling you. He just said he would like to see it continue because he's getting big benefits out of this, at least as far as the polls are showing. But the polls are all run by the same crooked left-wing media that that are lying to the people. As I said in several of my videos, or at least one recently, where I showed that most of the jurors that were going through the selection process in the Trayvon Martin case did not trust the media at all. They thought of it as really pitiful entertainment media and had nothing to do with real facts and stuff. I thought that was great. So hopefully most of the people will wake up and see through this that the Democrats have no interest in helping people. They're really not interested. It's about people control. And if you look at the Communist Manifesto and a lot of the other socialist programs for domination of a population, it requires healthcare takeover. But that's really not what my conversation is about here. I really wanted to focus on who has the power of the purse, who has the power of the cash. And it's very clear, the Constitution laid it out very simply, that it is absolutely in the hands of the House of Representatives. And the Senate here is telling them that they better get on the stick and do their job. But the Senate hasn't passed a budget in 5 years. Why? Because they're still operating on the Democrats' budget. They're refusing to allow the Republicans to show any influence in this budget process. Look, just sign the check or we're shutting it down. That's it's our way or the highway. And you don't like it, we'll sick CNN on you. We'll sick MSNBC on you. You don't really? So let's continue.
After that.
Clearly, the talks are in their very early stages. But I believe Senator McConnell showed goodwill. I believe he wants to come to a solution. I believe he knows how serious it is to default.
Nobody ever talked about defaulting, and this is the most ridiculous thing is these Democrats it's like they're stupid, you know? We are taking in 10 times every day. We take in 10 times what it costs us to pay our interest on our debt. Just in the money that we're taking in. That is if we don't borrow a nickel. 10 times. So why are we talking about default? Why? Because this is their scare tactic. We're going to talk about default. We're going to close down the open air monuments where the poor veterans would gather on their special day. That's what we do because we're Democrats and we work by fear. We want people to be in fear. You need this health care because you can't depend on your family. You can't depend on the goodness of the people in the world. You know, how did we survive before? How was it in 1962 before we had any government interference in health care? You know, how is it that, that people survived back then?
And my view is that it will be the Senate that will have to come to an agreement here because
it's unconstitutional. The Senate doesn't have any power to spend any money. The Senate is supposed to listen to what the House has to say, and then they come together and make that work. So this thing about having the Senate start, it's totally outside of any regular order.
House Republicans seem so divided and in such disarray, they don't have a plan.
Thanks.
Well, it's like they don't understand how it's supposed to work and how it's always worked historically. Whatever party holds the majority in the House, they get to decide what bills come to the House floor. So unless they are positive that at least 50% or more of the Republicans are going to vote for a bill, they won't bring it to the floor. So the fact that Boehner brought this to the floor and allowed a minority of Republicans and a flood of Democrats to pass a bill over the majority of Republicans means that his life as a speaker is over. So obviously this must be important to him because he gave up his political life. He will not be speaker anymore. There's no way. It can't happen. Because all he had to do is stand firm and say, I'm not bringing that to the floor. I mean, why would the House bring something to the floor when the Senate has sat there and poked their eye in the House, in the finger in the eye of the House every time the House sent them a bill? The House would send over a bill and say, you guys are crying because the VA is not funded. Let's fund the VA. Here's the bill. They look at it and they go, nah, table it. Okay, well, how about this other thing? You guys are talking about all the people that aren't that their food stamps might be in jeopardy in the future. Let's solve that right now. Nah, finger in the eye. This is what they've been doing. No budget because they refuse to pass a budget, which forces either a continuing resolution or nothing. So this is what the Democrats are doing. They're saying you will either take it, what we did back in 08 and 09, or forget it. You just shut down the government because that's the options the House has. The House can't even influence their budget. They can't even influence it. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of sad that it's come to this and that the Republicans don't have the the nerve yet, but I think that this is all short term because probably very soon, in fact, I would guess by Thanksgiving, there will be a new Speaker of the House. If not, I just can't understand how these Republicans could vote for Boehner to be the to be the leader when or the Speaker. It doesn't make any sense. If they do that, then they would be saying, well, we voted no, the majority of us voted no on this bill, but really we knew that it was going to pass, so we voted no as political cover. We really support it because if they don't remove Boehner, then they're saying what he did was fine, and this is a big no-no. This has been a rule in the Republican Party and the Democrats too. They never would bring a bill that would be passed by a majority of the other party. It's just unheard of. So he's toast. If these people were real, if they're not real, well, then they'll get voted out around here, next year. So next year, November. So very short period of time. Anyway, I didn't want to make this a real long video, but here it is. Good talking to you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.